Welcome back to episode number 8 of the Road to Success series, and in this video we are tackling the best university in the world, MIT. Now I am going to do a little something special for this video. In addition to talking about the scholarships, financial aid, tuition fee, I'm actually going to take you guys through the entire application portal walkthrough. So let's get started. Now to start off, undergrad students as well as graduate students apply to MIT using the MIT portal. Now this is something different because as we've seen, Common App has been a big platform that students use, but MIT isn't present in Common App. So that's the number one change. Now after that, if we take a look at the ranking that MIT has to provide, the QS World University Rankings of 2024 placed MIT in the number 1 spot. Now, there are different rankings out there that are available. So, the position of the ranking may fluctuate between 1, 2, or 3. But it's safe to say that this is the best university in the world. Last year, if we take a look at some stats, around 33,000 applicants applied and only 1,300 students were admitted. Of these 1,300, 120 were international students, and this puts MIT with an overall acceptance rate at 3 to 4%. So taking a look at the financial aid and scholarships that MIT has to provide for undergrad as well as graduate students, we're looking at a tuition fee of about $60,000 and 50 to 60 for master's students. Now for undergraduate students, it's important to note that MIT is need blind. Now what this basically means is that if you indicate on your application that you require scholarship and financial aid, they will not use this as a factor to decide whether to give you admission or not. So being need blind is a good thing. MIT is in one of those need blind lists. For master's and PhD students, they offer fellowships and stipends in the form of RA and TA. And this is how the aid, or you can say the funds, are distributed for graduate students. Taking a look at the amount, now good news here for all of the students. There's up to 100% need-based financial aid awarded by MIT, which means that if you're good enough to get in and get accepted, and money is the only thing holding you and your family back from actually attending MIT, they will cover up to 100% of those costs. It's very, very clear, as simple as that. For master's and PhD students, the fellowship is somewhere between partial to full to cover your tuition fee. And then the stipend that they give is usually between $3,000 to $4,000. And that is something that you can say is used for like living expenses, your food, your rent. So, a combination of the fellowship and stipend is good enough to cover your entire cost of your degree. For my undergraduate students, if you are an international student, you will be using the CSS profile to apply to MIT. If you are a US citizen, you will be filling out the FAFSA form. For graduate students, the fellowships are in form of MIT administered fellowships. And what this basically means is once you get admitted, they will, let you know how and where the funds are coming from. If there is an additional application that the department that you're applying to requires, they will let you know of that as well. Stipends are automatic for PhD students, so you will automatically be assigned a lab or maybe a few classes for which you have to be a teaching assistant, and they'll basically mention the stipend with a combination of all of those. So coming to the deadlines that MIT has, we are looking at 2 deadlines for undergraduate students. There is an early action deadline of November 1st and a regular application deadline of January 4th. Now it's important to note that there is no early decision, so there are no binding offers. You can either apply to early action or regular decision, just these 2 types for undergrad students. And another tip that I want to mention for undergrad students is if you are in the process of kind of thinking how to improve your profile or take your entire application to the next level, there's something known as the MIT Maker Portfolio, which is a place for potential high school students who are going into an undergrad degree to showcase their academic and non-academic interests and basically present their projects. So this is something that I highly recommend checking out. I've already made a fully dedicated video on this topic, so you guys can check that out later. On the other hand, for graduate students, the deadlines kind of differ. They are usually between December and January. So December 2023, January 2024. Now, over the last few years, I have gone through so many student profiles, and I've helped a lot of students with their entire application process through the mentorship programs. And through this entire process, I've even had a handful of students get into MIT. So in my opinion, this is what your profile should look like if you are aiming to seriously get get into a college like MIT. And remember, this isn't a template that I'm giving you. This, whatever I've written, on this slide doesn't mean that if you have all of these, you're definitely going to get in. But this makes you stand a really good chance. Again, this is just my opinion. There can be students that don't fit this criteria and have still gotten in. But the point is, you have to, in some way, show that you are academically and overall a proficient student and worthy of studying in the best university in the world. So let's take a look at undergrad students. If we take a look at the academic side of things, you should have grades anywhere upwards of 90. These 90 plus grades are usually in whatever board that you are studying in, whether it's the IB, the IGCSE curriculum, ICSE, CBSE, state board, whatever. You have to be proficient in your own education system. Number 2 are the SATs. Having anywhere upwards of 1500 or 1550 SAT is a good place to be academically. And lastly, having written AP exams. There are overall roughly 35 AP exams that you can write. And I see a lot of students say that this isn't offered by my school. AP exams are not offered by any school. They're very similar to SAT exams. You have to register for them, study, and then write the test. So out of these 35 subject-wise AP exams, if you have anywhere between 5 to 15, 7 to 8 subjects is also good enough, and have scored anywhere between a 4 and 5 in these, this overall category makes you very academically proficient. Other than this, looking at non-academic skills, you need to have top-notch writing skills, which means that your essays and your creative writings aspects need to be top of the line. This is because you need to convince MIT that you are a good communicator. You are able to articulate your thoughts very clearly in a concise way and communicate that through written words, right? Next, we have extracurricular activities, research, internships, national level or state level honors and achievements, internationally recognized honors and achievements. These are everything that MIT is looking for. Now, when it comes to my graduate students, academic side of things, we are looking at GPAs of upwards of 8.5 or 9 in your overall 4-year undergraduate degree. Not just the best 3 or 4 semesters, not just the final year, overall undergraduate degree. GRE upwards of 320 is an excellent score to be in. And non-academic activities include maybe some published research papers, some amount of work experience, and an excellent written statement of purpose. Again, we want to make sure that your writing skills are top of the notch so that you can communicate your thoughts effectively here as well. With that said, we are going to jump into the walkthrough of the application process for undergraduate students. All right, so we are on the MIT application page. I'm going to put the link to this in the description below if you guys want to go to this. But basically, you are going to create an account. I've already created an account, so I'm going to log in. So you would basically just put your email ID and log in. This is going to be the dashboard that you see. If we scroll down, we're going to click on Start a New Application. You would make sure that you're applying as a first-year student, and you would select Create an Application. So open the application, and all of these things on the left are what is required. So when you click on the bio information, we see that it asks for your names. Remember that all of these details need to match whatever is in your official document, like your passport. Your permanent address, now this can be in your own country. Let's say I wanted to add an address in India, I can do that. Your mailing address, it can be the same as your permanent address. Your email, telephone number, your bio information, and your citizenship status. And then we have the personal information section. Again, very general stuff, so you guys can fill this, no issues. We scroll all the way on the top, go into application information. Now here, like we saw that as an undergraduate student, you have the option to apply for early action or regular action, which is also regular decision. So you can choose whichever one you intend on applying to. Scroll down, same thing. Have you ever applied to MIT before? Very, very general questions. Now this is interesting. So tell us why this field of study at MIT appeals to you. This is a version of the YS essay. So let's say that you select biomedical engineering as the major that you want to take. In this particular essay, in less than 100 words, you have to explain why you selected this major. Now we go on to the family information section. Same, very general stuff. Your parents' information, so mom and dad. And then you have other family members. This is where you would put in any siblings, primary language that's spoken at home, and if you have any other information maybe about your family that you think is relevant to the application, you can write down here. Now, in this space, it's a good idea if you want to talk about low income, your situation, household situation, that can be added here. Don't make it sound too much of a rant. Just keep it concise to the point. Moving on to the schools section. Now here you can add in your school, and when you click to add new, you'll basically add your high school, what country it's in, and for international students, you can select the country, just your start and end dates, and save that. Now remember that the schools that they're asking for are usually high schools, so if you've changed schools in between, you can also add both of the schools over here. Academic history, this is where you would basically add all of your transcripts and other high school related documents. So if we scroll down, are you graduating from high school early? Yes or no? Typically students will say no. Are you still attending the school? Yes, if you are in class 12 right now, because by the time you graduate, you wouldn't have, finished filling out this application. And then we move on to the self-reported coursework. Now this is where, you would add in all of your marks. So here you scroll down and you would add in a new category, select the subject that you've taken, the year that you took the subject in, what level it is. For international students, if none of these levels apply for you that you see on the screen, you can just select other or regular. The name of the class needs to be exactly the same as how it would be depicted in your final mark sheet. So if math is called mathematics or mathematics AB, mathematics BC, that exact name is how you need to mention that. The grade received, if you still are taking the subject, you can leave this part blank. Now if we scroll down, for STEM related students, they are required to have these particular subjects. So you need to mention whether you've taken calculus, physics, biology, and chemistry, and in what year, or if you're currently taking these subjects. Now, if we scroll down even further, we have essay number 2, which is there anything we should know about the school's coursework situation? Now, in this space, it's a good idea to talk about if your school has like a very difficult exam. For example, I know a lot of international students, they have a very, very difficult grade 11, where schools prepare them for the board exam for grade 12. So if your school did that, and let's say all of the students ended up getting like a okay grade, you can talk about that in this section. Talk about how they put you under the microscope, or the exams were extremely difficult to prepare you for the final exams. And you can also talk about how overall the student maybe didn't do the best, but relatively you did a good performance. Or if you have scores that maybe didn't depict the best version of yourself, a drop in grades, anything academic and score related can be added into this 250-word essay. Now, if we move on to the next section, we have test scores. Now, test scores basically are exactly that. So if you add a test, you can see that you can add AP exams, the ACT, the SAT, English proficiency exams, so TOEFL, IELTS, all of that can go over here. Now, you would add in each test the date that you took it, and any explanations optional that would apply to you can be added on over here. Next, moving on to the jobs part. If you are a student who has been formally employed, so typically if it's like an internship which was unpaid, that doesn't count as a job. But if you were paid, even if it was part-time work, you would add in your employer in this section over here. Next, we have the activities section. This is very similar to your extracurricular activities. You would add your organization, the exact activity, and the name of any awards that you received. Again, the more high-profile awards can be maybe added first, and then you can go into least profile awards next. We have the next essay, which is that we all know you lead a busy life full of activities. Tell us something that you do simply for the pleasure. Now, you guys are probably noticing this trend. Every few questions later, MIT decides to ask these essay-related questions. And these are short supplemental questions. Please don't just use this as a workspace to write down your answer. You should be working on these offline, making drafts, revisions, improving on your answers before you ultimately submit them over here. Next, any sort of supplemental information. Maybe you were part of your sports team in school, that can be added over here. Now moving on, we go into the short responses. So these are the official supplemental questions. Although we've looked at like 3 or 4 already, this hasn't even begun MIT's supplemental section yet. So you can talk about how the world that you come from, including opportunities, experiences, have shaped you. Then there is a community-based question that MIT asks. How did you manage a situation that challenged that you didn't expect? And then we have an additional information section or a creative portfolio. My number one suggestion for all of these supplementals would be that even if it's optional, attempt them, write them, and take your time with trying to make sure that these answers that you write are specific to MIT. Make it subtly visible that you've done your research, you've looked into what programs, and it also brings out your creative writing skills. Next, moving on to the next section, which is recommendations. This is where your letters of recommendations would go in. You simply add a recommender, the details, and then just hit send. Now, this is another important part. Now, even if your recommender hasn't submitted their recommendation letter, you can still submit your application. Don't wait for them to submit and then you'll submit your application. That's like you'll end up missing the deadline. Certification is making sure that everything that you've added into this portal is ethical and true. You digitally sign your signature. If you need an application fee waiver, you would hit yes. And basically just add in the reason, and that's about it. You get the fee waiver. If you hit no, you would then just move on to the next section, which is final review and submit. Now, the review and submit section will only let you submit your application once all of these things have been filled out, and then you can just review and submit your application. Now, remember that even after you submit the application, the same portal can be used to view your decision when that comes out. Okay, so that was an exhausting application portal and a process, and that is basically how MIT has structured it. They ask for all of these things and expect you to spend time on the application process. This isn't something that's meant to be done in a day. You need to take at least a few months prepping for this application. Now, that's all that I had for this video. If you guys liked this particular style where I do like a deep dive into the application walkthrough, let me know in the comments below. If we can get this video to maybe 500 likes, I'll do another university where I do like the application walkthrough to show you guys everything that it entails to give you guys a better idea. And at this point, we're going to do our random question of the day. You guys didn't think that I forgot, right? Since we are kind of, I guess, moving towards the end of the year, I want to know from you guys, what is your favorite festival of all time? Like, what do you look forward to? What do you like to celebrate? For me particularly, I'm a big fan of Diwali. I think that just fireworks, watching fireworks, not particularly being a part of that activity, but watching them and all the sweets and food that's associated with it is something that I really, really look forward to. Drop yours in the comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.